So, in today's episode, you'll learn the difference between a mortgage pre approval and a mortgage approval and how they work with each other. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. I'm Carl,
Hi everyone, I'm Mo, lead mortgage planner at Mortgage Architects.
and welcome to the Home Buyers Show, where home buyers get the latest strategies and tactics to help them buy their next home. And remember, if this is your first time on the channel and you want to get the latest home buying strategies from the experts, hit the subscription button below, hit the little notification bell so you're up to date. So, Mo, we've talked in previous videos about the mortgage approval process and the mortgage pre approval, but I know there's a lot of people that are kind of confused. Well, do I need to get an approval? Do I need to get a pre-approval? So what is the difference between the two and how do they actually work with each other?
That's a great question, Carl. So, a pre-approval, it's ideally what I consider is when we pre-approve you and your current situation. So we've now looked at your credit, we've looked at your income, we've looked at your situation, and we come back into a number that we think is going to be comfortable for you to purchase, with is including your mortgage payments monthly, your current debts, whatever it is. So now that is what our pre-approval has done, is that now you as an individual or your current situation is now pre-approved up to a certain amount or a dollar value or a house price value. Then what you do is that you go out and you find the property. Once you find the property, now the pre-approval turns into something what we consider a live deal, because now it's turned into our pre-approval into an actual. Now we're working to get the actual approval. So we'll add the property details, we'll look into see if the property or the collateral, which is one of the C's of credit that we talked about, is ideal for the lender and for yourself as well. There's no underlying issues in it. We take that together and we send it up to the lender. They look at everything, and as long as the pre-approval is there and you've done your job with the pre-approval, there's probably a really high chance or a 90% chance that the pre-approval turns into an actual approval. Once you get the actual approval, it will come back as what we consider conditional approval. The conditional approval is just an approval that is approved based on the conditions that the lender has given to us to kind of help meet those conditions. Once again, when we're at that stage, I would very comfortably say we're 80 to 85% already done, depending on the conditions. Once we meet those conditions, we actually now go from a conditional approval to a final approval. And that's technically the stages from start to finish, A to Z. Pre-approval to a conditional approval, to an actual approval, to a sign off, and then you're good to go.
Can you be rejected after you get pre-approved, but before you get approved for a home?
So you will not get rejected from the time of your pre-approval to an actual approval. Ideally, your approval will probably just not come. So if you were pre-approved, your broker hasn't done their due diligence, or they're not that experienced enough to kind of tell you, hey, you are pre-approved. They haven't caught any of these underlying issues that the lender or the underwriter that we consider will catch. So an underwriter is someone that works for the lenders that will look over the deals. They're very experienced, they're very knowledgeable. Their job is to catch stuff and then say, is this deal safe enough for the lender? Is it a good deal for the lender? Is it a good deal for you? That's what an underwriter does. And technically, your mortgage broker, if they're trusted and experienced, should actually play a role like an underwriter in the pre-approval process with you. A good mortgage broker would be looking at the exact same things that an underwriter will look at. Any weaknesses your application has, any weaknesses your deal has, any gaps in income, any gaps in credit, any underlying issues that the underwriter can find, your mortgage broker should be able to find. So ideally, if you're working with someone that is experienced, you're going to catch that before it goes to the lender. So when it goes to the lender, you've already mitigated most of them. And even then, if you haven't mitigated it and there's some underlying issues that have just not come up and it doesn't get approved, then there's a process that the pre-approval will just stay as a decline deal. It won't get approved at that time. And that's when you will sit down with your broker, work on next steps, work on plans, work on a timeline to see where can we fill those gaps, fix those underlying issues to get you ready to be able to buy and purchase the next time around.
So is there a standard timeline between when you get pre-approved and when you get the true approval? Is it just the time it takes for you to actually find the right home, or is there you should actually get you should between a pre-approval to approval, it should be within 2 months, within a month, within 3 months? Is there like a specific timeline that you need to get approved after you get pre-approved?
Yeah, so it's a good question, Carl. So ideally, like it really just kind of depends on how soon you can find a house, right? So let's say you're pre-approved, your pre-approval lasts for 3 months. Ideally, you want to find a house within those 3 months, right? Before the pre-approval expires. I'm not saying it's the end of the world if the pre-approval expires. As long as your situation hasn't changed, you can always extend a pre-approval. But if you've already done a pre-approval, it's good for 3 months. Try to find a house within that time range. That will kind of give you the best chances of getting approved. So you found a house now within, let's say you get pre-approved and it took you about a month and a half to find a house. You found a house, you're still within that pre-approval timeline of 3 months. You take that, you submit it to the lender will take a look at it, they approve it, and now you're good to go. So going back to your original question, it's literally based on how long it does take you to find that ideal house, right? So you've done your research, you're shopping around. Sometimes it can take a week, sometimes it can take 2 months. I've had clients that I worked with for 2 years to find a house, right? So we've just extended their approval the whole time. I kid you not, I've had a client that literally took from the time of pre-approval to find a house 2 years. It just wasn't enough. And I've had clients that were pre-approved them and the next day they found their dream property. So I said very subjective, really depends on what's available in the market, what you're looking for. And I'm not saying that you should rush the process. I always tell my clients, take as long as you want and need. It should be the perfect house for you. It should meet all your needs and criterias, because at the end of the day, you don't do this as often as buying, let's say, a car, or as often as buying, let's say, clothes for some people, right? So it takes a long time. So if it takes you 2 years to buy, ideally, I would feel very comfortable with that client that he's done his homework, his due diligence. Then when he does find a home, he's found something that he absolutely loves, right? So definitely there's no right answer, right? Take as little time as you need, ideally within the 3 months. If you want to take longer, also not a big deal. You can always extend that approval, so take as long as you need.
You mentioned the client that took 2 years, to find their home. How often then, like, let's say your pre-approval lasts 3 months, did that person have to get pre-approved over and over and over again? Like, did they have to just keep coming back and submitting the same forms to get pre-approved again and again?
So ideally in that scenario, it wasn't that often, and ideally it wouldn't be that often, right? You would have a client that got pre-approved once. He might check in with you 6 months, 9 months down the road, or we would check in with them every 3 months saying, what's going on? Here's an update. This is what's happening in the market. They would say, listen, we're still looking. We haven't found anything. Ideally, in that scenario, we wouldn't do another pre-approval based on our conversation, or we consider if we've uncovered anything in our conversation. If they're still working the same job, we know they got good credit, they're managing their debts well, not a real reason to keep on doing a pre-approval every 3 months if they're going to take a little bit longer to buy. This one client that took 2 years to buy, we probably did maybe 2 or 3 pre-approvals in that time period, which was still good because we were comfortable with him. We were comfortable with him as a client. His income wasn't impacted. His credit wasn't impacted. We knew the down payment was there. So once again, depending on the client, depending on the scenario, it could change, or we could probably have to do it every 3 months if it's a very tight deal. If the scenarios are kind of working not in our favor as much and we need to stay on top of it, we might try to do it every 3 months. Like I said, every situation is going to be different. Not one client's going to be cookie cut. Everyone is different. So it could be more often, or it could be we could wait a longer time period to do them.
And remember, if you're getting value from this video, we'd really appreciate you hitting that like button. And the question of the day for you is, when was the last time you got pre-approved and approved at the same time? How was your experience? Let us know in the comment section below. So Mo, last question. Do you have anything else to add in terms of pre-approvals versus regular mortgage approvals?
Yeah, just once again, going to emphasize the importance of a pre-approval, right? So if you've gone pre-approved, you've gone to a trusted broker, you've done all that extra work, the pre-approval to an approval, that stage becomes extremely easy, right? You've done all the legwork, so you're not stressed. And ideally, in a hot market or in a very competitive market, you don't have that time to actually change. Like if you haven't done a pre-approval and you found a property, Now your clock starts from the time the offer is written. Now you're racing against the clock, right? And now we're waiting for lenders to get back to you. Now we're waiting. Let's say now your employer is going to take some time getting you that letter of employment that a lender needs. Sometimes an employer could take a week, sometimes 2 weeks to get a letter of employment, depending on what their process is or what their internal strategy is or whatever it works on their side. And that's the reason why a pre-approval is so vital, is because it's going to smooth the process all the way to the end for you. We're going to uncover stuff. We're going to get the right documents up front. We're going to let you what's going to be needed closer when you do find the property. So when we do it, you found the perfect property, we've gone a certain time period we need to close by, there's a really good chance that we're going to close it by that time. So you're not stressing, your realtor's not stressing, and everyone just kind of works together. It becomes a more harmonious process, I think. And you're going to enjoy the process more. You'll be less stressed, you'll be less anxious going through it, and you'll be like, okay, now all you do is just wait and enjoy the process, which I feel like a lot of clients unfortunately don't get to do. It's such an important process. It's such an important journey or a part of your life to become a homeowner. I remember when I became a first time a homeowner, and you probably remember that as well. And with me, my process, I still remember it today, even though it was ages ago, and it was very rocky. Not because I didn't get a pre-approval. Unfortunately, I didn't go with a trusted broker at that time, and my experience really changed. And so when I started getting into this business, or when I became a broker, I realized how important it was to look at it from the client's perspective or through their lens, right? So, and then that experience, whether good or bad, will last you a long time. And it kind of changes how you think about stuff. So like I said, do the work, do the homework early on, make sure you're pre-approved, you're gone with a trusted broker, someone that knows what they're doing, and then you're going to enjoy the process, and then it's going to be worthwhile in the end.
And if you want to learn more about the mortgage approval process and everything else related to mortgages, you got to check out these playlists here. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in our next episode.